Maryland men's and women's basketball smoked their competition on the hardwood this past weekend. Meanwhile, men's lacrosse took to the turf to defend the 2022 NCAA title, and boy, do they look dangerous. All that and more coming up on this edition of The Left Bench.
Pretty resilient group, didn't flinch.
That first quarter was their lowest point total of all year.
Hello and welcome to The Left Bench, presented by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Ricky Podgorski, joined here by Alexa Boone. And Alexa, what a weekend it was for Maryland basketball.
That's right, Ricky, and why don't we get right into it, starting with the women's team utterly dominant performance against Ohio State on Sunday. Maryland women's basketball was rocking the all-pink jerseys for its matchup against Ohio State this weekend. It was Maryland's annual Play for K pink game to celebrate breast cancer survivors, and the Terps put together a historic performance for the special occasion. Maryland was coming off a frustrating road loss to number 6 Iowa that Coach Brenda Frese attributed to a lack of effort. But that was not an issue for her team Sunday. The Terps dominated Ohio State from the jump with great transition offense and defensive intensity that we just didn't see against the Hawkeyes. Leading the way for Maryland was who else but Diamond Miller. Miller ended the game with 29 points and 10 rebounds, good for her 4th double-double of the year. The Terps cruised to a 90-54 victory, their biggest win against a top 10 team in program history. Here's Frese on her team's historic bounce-back win.
Loved our start. I thought our intensity, we knew both teams were going to come out strong. I thought we were the better team when we held them scoreless for about 3 minutes. That first quarter was their lowest point total of all year, even holding them to a season low 54 points, which was at 65, and I thought we were able to make a statement win.
And with that, it is our absolute pleasure to welcome the founder of the Left Bench TV and current sports reporter and anchor at DC News Now, Alex Flom, and who was at Xfinity Center for the romping of Ohio State Sunday.
Alex, it's great to have you back. Thanks for being here.
Guys, thank you for having me. It's pretty crazy. I haven't been on one of these shows in a very long time, since my last show, my senior year, like 5 years ago or so. So it's really great to see all the stuff you guys are doing and how strong and good the show is now.
Honored that you can be back here with us, but let's get right into things. Sunday's matchup was the definition of a blowout. The Terps took down a top 10 team by more than 30 points. How does this win impact their resume?
Well, I mean, coming into it, they hadn't had a lot of losses really at all this season. They've only lost, I think, 2 games since December 8th. So coming into that game yesterday, they wanted to get revenge, not exactly revenge, but they wanted to bounce back from their loss at Iowa early in the week. And they came out firing on all cylinders from start to finish, and game got a little chippy, and they responded to that by just blowing Ohio State out by even more. Just a complete 40-minute, very impressive performance.
Now, Alex, Diamond Miller has just been spectacular for Maryland this season, leading the Terps in points and rebounds. Plus, she just recorded her 4th double-double of the season on Sunday. How pivotal has she been for this team, not only as a player, but also as a leader?
Well, coming into the season, Diamond Miller knew she was going to have to be the face of this team, the leader of this team, a younger team, a team that had a lot of new players coming into the season, and she's really stepped up to it. Started the year off coming back from some injuries, and she's just gotten better and better as the year has gone on, leading the team, and you could really see that her energy was kind of going throughout the team. In addition to her, Cheyenne Sellers, Abby Myers have also both played really key roles, but Diamond has kind of been that senior leader, that top player on this team.
Now, Maryland currently sits in 3rd place in the Big Ten with a conference record of 10-3, only behind Iowa and Indiana, both teams that the Terps lost to in this past season. What do you think the kind of noise that these Terps can make in the Big Ten tournament?
Well, I think once you get to the Big Ten tournament, anything can happen. We saw what happened against Iowa this past week. Maryland obviously ran into Caitlin Clark, who's just about almost impossible to stop. So they're going to need to figure out how they're going to stop her once they get into the Big Ten tournament. And they said it after the game as well this weekend. They said, we're going to need to play a full 40 minutes like we did against Ohio State if we're going to have a chance at beating teams like Iowa and Indiana. So I think they do need to keep it up a notch like they have. But while the Big Ten tournament is a big priority, I think they're probably a little more focused on the NCAA tournament after that.
Now, Alex, the Terps have Northwestern up next in their schedule this Thursday. Now, the Wildcats reside in last place in the Big Ten. How do you see Thursday's game going?
Well, if this past weekend is any indication, I think it'll be more of the same. I think this is kind of a team on a mission right now, and I don't think they're going to underestimate anyone they're going to play. And I think you can expect to see them come out strong against the Wildcats.
Well, Alex, I'm so glad we could make this work, have you back in the left bench a little bit today. Thanks so much for the insight on Sunday's game and the season as a whole.
Of course, very proud of you guys. Keep it up.
You can watch Alex on DC News Now's Game Night Sportscast just about every night at 11 and follow him on Twitter at AlexFlumTV. While the women's basketball team crushed Ohio State at the Xfinity Center this weekend, Kevin Willard's men's team annihilated Minnesota on the road. It was a freezing night in Minneapolis, but the Terps are red hot from behind the arc. Jameer Young, Ian Martinez, and Dante Scott were just a few players to cash in from three in the first half, shooting a combined 60% from deep. By the end of the first half, Maryland held a 20-point lead. It was Juju Reese who led the way against the Gophers, going 8 for 10 from the field and scoring 16 points in just 20 minutes of play. The Terps extended that 20-point halftime lead to a 35-point margin, crushing Minnesota 81-46. And stay tuned because we will most certainly be making our way back around to this matchup when we get to our top 5 plays later in the show. Well, the Minnesota Massacre was far from the most exciting Big Ten game this weekend.
All 14 of the conference's teams took to the hardwood Saturday or Sunday, and some of these matchups won't be forgotten for a very long time. Kara Bruno is here in studio to take us around the Big Ten.
Yeah, guys, it was a memorable weekend for basketball for sure. I mean, the #1 team in the country goes down to in-state rival whose fans got to storm the court for the first time in 10 years. I mean, sign me up. And let's start there. Bloomington, Indiana, where Trace Jackson Davis and the Hoosiers told Purdue and the world it's their state. Indiana was coming off that 11-point loss here in College Park last Tuesday night, but don't forget they were still winners of 4 of 5 entering Saturday. TJD was masterful on both ends of the floor, finishing with 25 and 7 on 9 of 19 shooting. Oh, and throw in 5 blocks, including this big-time swat on Fletcher Lawyer in the early going. Thanks in part to a 12-2 Hoosier scoring run, they took a 15-point lead into halftime. Of course, one loss Purdue wouldn't go down without a fight. The Boilermakers dwindled the lead down to 9 with 12 minutes to go, but Player of the Year frontrunner Zach Edey had to go to the bench for a few minutes after picking up his 3rd foul, and Purdue just couldn't retake the lead. Indiana held on for the 5-point win, and the party commenced at Assembly Hall. Another rivalry game ensued just a few hours earlier in Iowa City between the Hawkeyes and Illinois, and these two teams don't like each other very much either. Just like the Maryland game at Carver Hawkeye Arena a few weeks ago, Tony Perkins was the star of the show. The junior guard dropped 32 on the Illini and went 15 for 16 at the free throw line on Saturday. This one really came down to the last minute and a half, though, when Peyton Sandforth flexed the ice in his veins to put Iowa up 3. Illinois was forced to foul the rest of the way, and the Hawkeyes protected their home court with an 81-79 victory. The weekend full of rivalries continued on Sunday when Michigan hosted Ohio State in Ann Arbor. And just like in football this year, the Wolverines took care of business. Hunter Dickinson and Jet Howard can be a scary combo sometimes, and that was the case on Sunday. The pair combined for 42 points, including this triple from Howard that put Michigan up 11 in the first half. Dickinson was really feeling himself out of the break, and he finished with his 7th double-double of the year, as Michigan coasted to a 77-69 win. Elsewhere on Sunday, the Northwestern Wildcats went into the Kohl Center and swept the season series with Wisconsin for the first time since 1995-1996 season. Boo Buie got going early, and he turned out to be Northwestern's leading scorer with 13. In typical Big Ten fashion, offense was hard to come by for much of this game, but not for Matthew Nicholson on this steal and slam late in the first half. My goodness, big fella, get up. Fast forward now to the final seconds, Northwestern up by 2, and Max Klesmet at the line shooting 1. The free throw is off the mark, and the Wildcats hold on, guaranteeing their first winning season since that NCAA tournament appearance in 2017. And guys, you can probably put Maryland in the same category, but Northwestern is the surprise team in the conference this year.
I mean, Kara, based on the momentum Maryland has right now, I'm just excited to see what they do with the rest of the regular season and far into the postseason, hopefully.
And that goes for the rest of the Big Ten, too. A lot of high stakes for a lot of those teams. Thank you so much, Kira, for joining us. Now, don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll recap the return of the men's lacrosse national champs in their first game of the season against Richmond.
And later, we'll celebrate Black History Month by telling the stories of a few Black pioneers here at Maryland. Stay with us.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Welcome back to the Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Ricky Podgorski, joined alongside by Alexa Wooten. And Alexa, we have been waiting all year for this, the return of the national champs back to College Park.
That's right, the Terps had their season opener Saturday, and wow, did they show out. Maryland men's lacrosse returned to the show Saturday afternoon, and the defending national champions started off their 2023 campaign in true dominant fashions. Things started off, well, how would you expect for a team that went 18-0 last season? After a pass from Logan McNaney, John Geppert nailed the first goal of the game to set the tone early. Shortly after, Owen Murphy broke through the Spiders' defense for his first of 4 goals on the day. Richmond then tallied its first goal of the game. The Spiders outshot the Terps 42-34, but just could not find the back of the net. Maryland's defense was a force to be reckoned with Brett Makar and Ajax Zapatello caused 7 turnovers and McNaney recorded 12 saves. Even though the Terps lost multiple attackmen in the offseason, their offense didn't look much different. 10 different Terps notched a goal, still spreading the wealth like last year. Richmond recorded 3 more goals, but it just wasn't enough as the Terps dominated, securing their first win of the season, 15-4.
In fairness, these guys, the first couple games, I'm not sure we felt totally settled, but these guys, like, pretty resilient group, like, didn't flinch, and I felt like they just got better and better each week, and I thought it showed today. They were super unselfish. The guys shared the ball. The stick work was better, I think, than it's been, so credit to those guys. And
as we mentioned, the Hardshells attack was unstoppable in 2022, leading Maryland to the national title. But as the 2023 season begins, the Terps are without all 5 of their top scorers from last year, leaving huge shoes to fill for the year's squad. Nathan Schwartz has more on which attackers stepped into those shoes against Richmond.
Maryland men's lacrosse is coming off one of, if not the best seasons for a college lacrosse program in NCAA history. And a big part of that success came from its attackers. Of course, Logan Wisnowskis played a major role in that, as the Tewaaraton winner scored 61 times last year. But Anthony DeMeo, Jonathan Donville, and Keegan Kahn played a major role as well, with each scoring over 30 goals. Those 4 are no longer with the team, And with Eric Molliver out for the season with multiple leg injuries, Coach Tillman had to make a lot of changes for the 2023 season.
There's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of change since August. Half our staff's gone. A lot of, guys that have been here for a while are gone. So there's been a lot of new parts. Even in the preseason, we had a bunch of guys in and out.
With all of those key losses, the Terps attack will look quite different than last year. But on Saturday against Richmond, strong performances from the veterans paired with a great debut from a true freshman proved that the Hardshells won't skip a beat in 2023.
One of those veterans who will be heavily relied on this year is Owen Murphy, who had a phenomenal start to his season. The junior notched 4 goals in the season opener after coming off of a 34-goal season a year ago.
Murph just kind of has a knack for scoring and kind of getting the good spots and finding spots, and I thought that his teammates did a good job of finding him too.
Daniel Maltz also put together quite a performance as the senior returned to the starting lineup for the first time since the 2021 National Championship. Maltz scored twice and had 3 assists, one of which went to Braden Erksa. The freshman out of IMG Academy also scored twice against the Spiders, and his speed could be a weapon that the Terps use as the season progresses.
He's very quick, he's skilled, he's a tough cover, and I think for the spring, it just seems like the game has slowed down a lot.
The amount of scoring talent on this year's team may be less than last year's, but there is no doubt that opposing defenses will still have problems dealing with this Terps attack.
But with our new group, we've been, like Logan said, working since August, and we all came together. We've bought into our system. We haven't changed that since I've been here, so I'm confident in all of our guys, and I know they all are all confident, and we'll keep improving and keep moving forward.
For Terrapin Sports Central, I'm Nathan Schwartz.
Obviously, Ricky, this is not last year's team, but it is looking like a good start.
I mean, the team looks a little bit different. I was there on Saturday's game. I don't know, they could make a repeat or a good push to repeat as champions. Now, let's see what else we have to catch you guys up on from this past weekend. Maryland Wrestling returned home after a long road trip Saturday, hoping to capture its first Big Ten win against Rutgers. Instead, it was more of the same for the Terps. Maryland started off hot when redshirt freshman Braxton Brown won his match, putting the Terps up 4-0. Later, King Sandoval lost his first match of the season, which helped Rutgers regain the lead. Maryland managed to keep the match close at intermission, though, only trailing 10-7. But the Scarlet Knights were in control after the break, winning 3 straight matches to give them a 19-7 lead. Then, a medical forfeit from Jackson Smith put Rutgers up 25-7 before the final heavyweight bout. The two teams saved the best match for last as Jaron Smith competed against Rutgers' Boone McDermott. That's a wrestling name if I've ever heard one. But Smith ultimately fell in a close match 5-4, and Maryland went down 28-7.
Rutgers did a good job of is their guys know who they are, and they made sure that in a couple tight moments that they got back to their positions and got back to their skill set and made the match kind of go their way or veer their way. And that's a lesson for our young group is you have to wrestle where you're best. Otherwise, things can go sideways. It's a fist fight. You don't trade blows you're not comfortable with in a fist fight, right? You shouldn't in a wrestling match either.
Maryland Gymnastics set its season-high team score Sunday, but it just wasn't enough to defeat number 15 Ohio State. The Terps started out on bars, posting a 49.250 team score. Aleka Chikinas led the way, matching her career high, and Emma Silberman followed by setting her season high of 9.9. Moving on to the vault, where Alexis Rubio, Silverman, and Reese McClure scored a 9.825. For its third rotation, Maryland moved to the floor, scoring a 49 for the third time in 4 meets. The Terps finished out on the beam, led by Josephine Kogler, who matched her career high with a 9.9. Silverman finished third in the all-around and posted a career best 39.350. But the Terps still fell to the Buckeyes 197.575 to 196.475.
Maryland tennis headed north to Hanover, New Hampshire to take on Dartmouth this Sunday, and the trip proved successful for Katie Doherty's Terps. Mary Brumfield and Selma Kadar led the way in doubles. Meanwhile, Marta Perez-Moore shut down Dartmouth's Katie Weber in her singles match victory. Perez-Moore then teamed up with Minorca Miranda in doubles to take home the win. The Terps totally beat down on Dartmouth, winning this one 6-1. The victory moved Maryland to 5-1 on the season. And before we go to break, here's your reminder that February is Black History Month. and that Maryland has been at the forefront of lifting and elevating black voices for decades.
That's dating all the way back to 1963, when Darrell Hale became the first African-American football player in both school and ACC history. 2 years later, Billy Jones broke the color barrier for ACC basketball, becoming the first black player at Maryland.
Today, you might recognize Jones and Hill as the namesake for Maryland football's performance center, Jones Hill House, which was dedicated in 2021. Here's what Jones had to say about the honor.
It's important, and I want my grandkids to understand and know the history. And as I said before, you can tear up a photo, it can crack up, you can break a trophy, whatever the case may be. But that building's there for a long, long time. And even if you don't know the history, you might ask the question, who are those people? And in doing so, learn something about us.
And when we come back, we'll introduce a new weekly segment that you won't want to miss.
Then we'll crown our Terp of the Week, Pro Terp, and Top 5 plays. Don't go anywhere.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far.
A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back once again to the Left Bench. I'm Ricky Podgorski here with Alexa Booten.
And before we hand out our weekly hardware, we'd like to introduce you to our brand new segment, Call of the Weekend.
Each week, we're going to take our favorite call or calls from student broadcasters here at Maryland and present them to you at the end of the show. This week's call comes from Aaron Arnstein of WMUC Sports, who is behind the mic for Owen Murphy's fourth goal of the day on Saturday. Take a listen.
Richmond still looking for the first goal of the second half. Now Young gives it back off to Alpaw, and he has some trouble collecting that pass. It's picked up by Maryland. Maryland on the break. An opportunity here for Gepper than the Terps. Finds Murphy, the shot and the goal! Owen Murphy, 4 goals to his name. Maryland extends their lead to double digits, 4:20 to go here in the third.
First things first, I want to say congrats to Aaron on being our first call of the week in this new segment. I'm very excited to see where this segment can go.
I mean, I just love that we're doing it. I can't wait to see the more calls to come. All right, I think it's time we crown our Terp of the Week. Now this player has received recognition for her talent not only from us, but from some of the biggest names in the game. That's right, it's star women's basketball player Diamond Miller. Miller has been Maryland's best player all year long, leading the team in both points and rebounds. And let's just get into her monster performance in College Park this weekend. The senior notched 29 points in just 30 minutes of action, and with her 10 rebounds, she surpassed 500 for her career. Congrats to Diamond on being named our Terp of the Week.
Our Pro Terp helped bring a national championship to College Park last spring, and now he's tearing it up in his pro career. It's none other than Jonathan Donville. Donville plays for the Panther City Lacrosse Club of the National Lacrosse League. He's one of the Panthers' leading scorers this year, tallying 10 goals in addition to 32 assists. He has the team's second most shots on goal this year with 73. Donville and Panther City are 4-4, and they'll host the Vancouver Warriors this Saturday. Congrats to John on our Pro Terp honors, and good luck on the rest of the season.
And now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the week, our top 5 plays. Ricky, get us going.
All right, Alexa, at number 5, we have Jameer Young slamming down this one-hand jam against Minnesota. You can see Patrick Chameleon getting into it on the sideline there. Young just slices through the paint off the inbound pass, and sheesh, just lays down the hammer.
Next up, Faith Masonis goes up for the layup but is unable to finish. No problem, though, because Abby Myers is there for the rebound and putback. Finishing through the contact, she even manages to get an and one, and you can see the excitement that follows.
And we're going to stay right here at Xfinity Center for number 3 with Diamond Miller and the athletic finish. A great entry pass and a heck of a way to draw the contact and rattle home the bucket. Flex on them, Diamond Miller, because you are a certified bucket.
And coming in at number 2, it's John Geppert with the goal to kick off the 2023 season for men's lacrosse. Geppert just whips the ball past Richmond's defense into the top left corner on the fast break. Wow.
And for your top play, it's Jahari Long crossing a defender, dishing to Callum Swanton-Roger for the poster slam. Just watch here as Long goes through the legs and crosses it right in front of the defender, then a no-look pass to Swanton-Roger, who seems to only be dunking on people as of late. Shout out to Hunter Dickinson of Michigan. Well, it was fun, but that's going to do it for this edition of The Left Bench. Nathan Schwartz and Jonas Evans will be here next Tuesday to recap what should be another exciting week of Maryland sports.
In the meantime, be sure to keep up with all of our Terrapin Sports Central's coverage on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and online at terrapinsportscentral.com.
We'll see you next time.